those who just logged on, my name is Dominique and I'm the Investor Relations Manager here at Greenleaf, and I have the rest of the Greenleaf team here with us today. And today we will be discussing and providing a deal update for you all for Summit Medical. But first and foremost, Greenleaf hosts weekly live streams and private connect events every Thursday afternoon with a new topic every week that highlights a portion of our business. Private events are more interactive while live streams are open to the public. So before we dive in here, we want to provide you with some rules of engagement. First, you do have the option to change your presentation view. Feel free to switch your attendee presentation mode to speaker spotlight view, or you can click and drag to make the presentation of our panelists bigger or smaller. There will be a Q&A portion at the very end, but you do not need to wait to submit any questions you may have. You can use the Q&A button located at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions, and our team will be sure to answer them. This is a friendly reminder that this live stream is recorded and will be shared via email by the end of the week. All right, without further ado, I will pass it over to our hosts, Dave Kodre and Josh Friedenson.
All righty, thank you very much, Dominique. Thanks everyone for joining today. Josh and I are excited to talk a little bit about Summit Medical and how it's doing. We were very excited to acquire this deal, which we did back at the end of February, only 5-6 months ago in 2021.
I have to say, this is probably one of our prettiest properties.
It does look pretty good.
Yeah, it looks damn good.
This is the actual building too. This isn't purely Photoshop.
It's not a rendering.
But we even made it look better when we fixed up the parking lot. But yeah, no, so it's a very nice looking building. A lot of the medical assets we've been getting into recently, when we go to look at them, we're like, wow, it looks nicer than some of the 1970s Class C apartment buildings we've been buying and renovating. But it's a great looking asset. Just a quick recap on it. It's 31,000 square feet, all in one building. It was built in 2003 and it sits on 4 acres. And we say it's in Clayton, North Carolina, which is just south of Raleigh. So it's in kind of the Raleigh metro area. And we've been doing a lot of stuff in North Carolina recently. So we've spent a lot of quality time in Raleigh. Nathan, who's gonna be with us in a little bit to talk about a Lake Park deal that's coming up. He just spent, I don't know how many days driving around. He wishes that little red circle you see right there at the bottom was in place for how many times he probably drove around the city. But you can see the green, I guess it's a white star with the green outline on it is Clayton. And this is where the Summit Medical deal is located. And we have a VA clinic that is our main tenant there. And all the other green little, what are those little check mark plus signs called? The hospital signs that look green. Those are all the other VA clinics that are in and around Raleigh. And then ours in the top left corner here is 1824 and 1830 Hillendale, which are also 2 other VA clinics that we own. So this is kind of our footprint of medical that we have in the Raleigh area.
Yeah, Raleigh-Durham is known nationally for having the highest concentration of veterans in their metro area, and really North Carolina, I believe, has the most in their state. So hence the concentration of VA clinics in the Raleigh-Durham area.
Yeah. So now we're 6 months into this deal, and we really wanted to take the opportunity to sit down and discuss how the deal is doing, what we thought about it going in, where we're at now, and what are our critical milestones as we look out to wrap up the first full year of ownership in this deal. So March of 2022, essentially the end of the first quarter of 2022, would mark our 1-year period of owning the Summit Medical deal. Every deal we go into, we are looking for operational improvements, physical improvements, and financial improvements that we can make on a deal. If we can hit all 3 of these, that's when we have the best success with any of the deals that we go into. So when we think about operationally, the big things we're looking for there is ensuring the stability of our rent roll. So when we acquired this one, we were in the middle of, we had some leases and stuff we were negotiating and working through.
Yeah, Dominion Energy was really on their way out the door, we thought. And then about, in the last, it was either a week before closing or a week after closing, they signed a 3-year extension with us.
Yeah. So, and another part of it is the physical improvements. So every one of our pro formas, we've got a bucket of money. We're saying, hey, we're gonna take this money and we're gonna go improve the asset with it. You saw the picture of this asset, so it looks very good to start with, but we did find a couple things here and there that we needed to do. So between that first year of holding, we're really looking to complete all of those physical improvements. And the last part is the financial growth. Since these are all longer term leases, we're really realizing rent growth throughout the time period and working on if we do have a renewal that is coming up. So those are the financial improvements that we look to make. So if we go into our financial performance, when we're acquiring the deal, again, we're also making some assumptions along the way here. We purchased it for $5 million. That was our contract price. We had $32,000 in estimated capital improvements. You want to talk a little bit about that process, that $32,000 and identifying it?
Yeah, so, when we put the property under contract, we've already toured it, we've already done some work, we've already talked with the seller and what would you do if you continue to hold the property? And then the next step is really as we start our due diligence process, we hire an engineering company, they're called Criterium. They're pretty fantastic. They've done all of our commercial properties for the last 2 years. And they give us really a year-by-year capital needs report over a 10-year period. And we take that and basically and summarize it and do what needs to be done. And that basically validates our assumptions. Usually we're give or take 10% of what their expectations are. We have a lot of experience in buying properties like this, and so we usually do pretty well with it. But yeah, on this one it worked out pretty well, and everything's been validated.
Yeah, we estimated $32,000, and that's the physical repairs that are needed, plus 10% overage, plus an assumed 10% that we're gonna have to pay a profit to some contractor to get that done. So we have a little bit of a buffer too when we come up with that number. The other big estimate is closing costs. We always wish they were lower. They're expensive. Lawyers are expensive, and it all takes time to get it done. We normally have bank fees in there as well. So, and then we have our projected reserves going in for a total cost of $5.4 million on this deal. When we look at our actuals of hey, we bought the deal, we closed, and we're pretty darn close with everything. Good news is here, so far we've only spent $12,500 on capital improvements, and we only have a little bit of HVAC work left. So we're expecting this to be under 20 grand total, which is great. Paving, HVAC all came in a little bit under schedule, under budget. And then our closing costs were almost 30 grand cheaper.
Yep.
So
yeah, we like to put a 10% contingency on, especially the capital improvements like Dave talked about, in our closing costs, just in case something happens haywire, in the process as we're raising money, we don't want to be short. So we hope that all these come in under, because we have that contingency factor, but just in case they come in over, we're safe.
Yeah. And when they do come under, that pads our reserves a little bit. So that's why you can see here, our reserve number is higher than we projected going in. So we're in very good shape. This is kind of like a day one snapshot of when we closed. So we're in very good shape there. And now we're going to take a look at our first really 5-6 months of operations and what we're projecting year one to look like. So where it says T5, this is through July. So we have all of our income, controllable and non-controllable expenses. We differentiate controllable and non-controllable. The controllable is really everything. Non-controllable is the taxes and insurance components. From a net operating income standpoint, you can see we're at about $141,000 so far, and we're projecting that out to be $350,000 through year one. Every time we have the kind of first couple months of a deal, we're kind of trying to flatline what the expenses look like, make sure all the utility bills are fully transferred, billed properly, deposits are in place. That's more of what the variability is in the first couple months. And as that stabilizes, or we have any kind of one-time costs that happen, we're able to get a really good view of what the first year is going to look like. With this loan going into it as well, it was amortizing right out of the gate, so we're paying principal here. So you can see we have our debt service cost of about $80,000 so far this year, and we'll round out around $193,000. The next two parts here, we mentioned we were a little bit higher in reserves. So we have our annual cash flow. So far, we've made about $61,000. We're projecting $160,000 for the year. And our full reserves that we have, this $137,000 with a little asterisk beside it there. Our goal for the end of the year is only to be at 70. We only plan, That's our reserve strategy. We've done some other presentations on what our reserve strategy is and how we do that quarter by quarter. So if there's any questions you have on that, we can certainly touch base on that here. This is a small enough group. This is just the investors for this deal. So if there are questions on how we're getting to those numbers, we do it every quarter, and we're saving quarter by quarter to get to this $70,000 by the end of the year. We're already there, and we know we don't have that much CapEx to do between now and the end of the year. So we'll be able to distribute that excess cash there. And then we also are projecting our cash available year one is $90,000. That's our net annual cash flow of 160 minus our ending goal of 70. So we're aiming to send out a partial preferred return for the year. That was where our goal was going into this deal as well. So we feel very much on track.
Real quick, going back to the reserves, something I've talked to a couple of you about on the video is this, the TI is tenant improvements, the LC is leasing commissions. These are kind of the heavy parts of office compared to, like, say, a multifamily. We're constantly in our reserve strategy is in preparation for a multi-year lease turnover or renewal incentive. So in multifamily, renewal incentives, turnovers, they happen every year. So it's kind of just a live part of the income statement. In office, they happen like a deal like this where our average lease is roughly 5 years. They're not happening regularly. We're going to talk about our upcoming leases here, and there's really not a whole lot to do over the next 12 months. So we're reserving in anticipation that in, say, 3, 4, 5 years from now, we're going to need some money to either replace a tenant or to incentivize them to stay. They might say, hey, I want new carpet. There's a lot of foot traffic, give me new carpet. Or, hey, I really want to replace my furniture. If you want me to stay here, I want some money towards my furniture. It might have to do with the physical building. It might have to just do with their physical operations. But we want to plan in advance that we have we're comfortable with our funds to incentivize them to stay or be prepared to turn it if they go.
Yeah. So if we look at our current cash projections for the year, we mentioned this $160,000 of annual cash flow. That's roughly 7% cash on cash. We're making principal payments of estimated about $84,000 for the year. So we feel very good where we are with our return on the equity that we put into this deal. The preferred return is 7% here, which equates to $156,000 for the year. That is our target that we feel like we're going to be able to consistently do in year 2 going forwards. We know we have just some evening out, to so to speak, of the first couple of months as we acquire a deal. And as we feel good about it, then it's, we finish our CapEx and we're able to consistently make distributions, especially on these medical deals going forwards.
Yeah, well, to clarify the evening out. So here's an example. Like, you hire a new cleaning company to clean the interior of the property, and they come in with an estimate. They give you a general estimate, and then they'll clean it for a couple of weeks, and they'll come back to you and say, hey, this is taking me more or less time, and they'll adjust that for the next bill. And what normally takes is, they do a couple cleanings before you get a full bill in. And sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, but it's a couple billing cycles until that really smooths out. And sometimes it'll go 60, 90 days with no bills, and then we get one big bill. So if you're looking at like a month by month income statement, you'll see like these highs and lows in certain categories, like cleaning is an example on this property, where we really didn't get billed for a couple of months, but then we got a $7,000 bill. It's like, oh, whoa, is this $7,000 going to be every month? And then we look back like, oh no, these are back bills. So that's just one example of kind of, it takes a couple of months for the numbers to smooth out.
Yeah. So the only physical improvement we have done here so far, yes, this is a picture of a parking lot, and it is black and white. We didn't pick any fancy colors, right?
Beautiful.
So we resealed, repaved the parking lot here and restriped everything. So it looks great. The only thing left is a couple HVAC repairs that we have to do, and then we're done with the physical improvement part. Another thing here that we want to talk about is, we've mentioned this on some of our other presentations and discussions, is this concept of using foot traffic data and cell phone information to really apply that to see how we're performing. So this green line here shows when we acquired the deal, and all of these month by month ticks are going back to January of 2019, and we're seeing how many people physically came to this location. We know during that time frame that we had radiology placed and we have the VA clinic here, and those are the foot traffic that we're seeing coming in. We're now 100% occupied. We bought it at 100%, and it's currently still 100% occupied, and it's performing well. So we're having more foot traffic here than the day that we bought it. That's what we want to see. That means we have tenants that are performing well and their businesses are doing well. Granted, the largest tenant being the VA clinic, there are other businesses here though. Yeah. So this is just showing the granularity that we have of every single building that we own right now. This is another interesting statistic here. We can see where people are before they come to our asset and then where they go. Specifically with medical, and if you think about a Veterans Affairs location, a lot of those people are retired. So a lot of our people are coming from home and then going back home or running another errand. Whereas only 7-8% of them are coming from work to this location. So it's pretty interesting. So we can see kind of where traffic is going, where it's coming from. We have all sorts of information too around, exactly where they are on a map that they're coming and going from. That helps us when we're assessing how does this VA clinic compare to another VA clinic in Raleigh or another state or another location. Like, are they all seeing an uptick in traffic, or is this one doing better than others? So the next one we want to touch base on is just our investment goals to the end of March of 2022. We mentioned this in the beginning of the presentation. We're talking about, hey, what are we trying to accomplish? So operationally, we have 2 leases that are coming up. We have one in May of 2022. It's 2,000 square feet, which is roughly 7-8% of the building. And then we have one in 2023. Now these are definitely further out. These are all post March 2022, but that conversation on renewal starts before then. So we want to be able to have a good idea at the end of year 1 where we stand with these tenants and what their expectations are and ours. And that helps us with our reserves. It helps us if we are going to have to do potential leasing to get ahead of it. The only physical thing left we have here is this remaining HVAC. And then we plan to make our parcel distributions throughout the first quarter of 2022 and kick off our year 2 of holdings in very good footing. Yes. So we're going to open it up now for questions. Bring Natalie King in here. She's going to help us walk through any questions you may have and go over some other points on the deal.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you to everyone who submitted questions. We also want to remind you that you can continue to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to submit questions as we work through those that have come in so far. We have 2 for you guys to start. The first question we have is, what rate did Dominion release at?
Very good question. Should have known that one specifically. I have to look that part up, but I know we got an increase on their current rate that they did, and they signed for a 3-year extension. When we were in closing, we thought that they were going to leave, and they ended up staying for another 3 years, which is great. And then they're paying a little bit more, but I believe it's only around a 2 or 3% increase. We'd have to check that specifically.
And this is an out parcel kind of office for Dominion. They're based out of the Northeast, and they're extending. I believe they're extending one of the pipelines down towards the North Carolina area. They're looking at expansion. So this is kind of a field office for the guys working on the expansion to kind of go to. We don't get a whole lot of foot traffic out of them. They're not in the office that often, but when they do, this is their home base when they're not in the field.
Okay. Our second question is, when do you anticipate your next update to the partnership outside of quarterly reports?
The biggest thing we really have is when we have some idea on what these lease renewals look like. So that, again, that one was in May in 2022. The other one is until 2023. But as soon as we know, hey, where do they stand and what these renewals look like, that gives you guys good insight into the long-term stability of payments associated with the deal. And then it gives us a good insight of if we have to spend any money on TI or leasing commissions, depending on which way those lease renewals go. That's the biggest next financial impact we see happening in the deal. So hopefully that is it, and there are no other unforeseen issues.
Great. Well, those are all the questions that came through. Again, we want to thank everyone for submitting your questions. And of course, we want to thank Josh and Dave for sharing the summit updates with us. As we wrap this up, we will leave you with our live stream schedule here on the screen. And Dominique will message everyone now with the registration link for our next live stream here at 2 o'clock, where we'll be discussing our newest offering, 2300 Lake Park. And don't forget to check out our Greenleaf Connect YouTube channel for all of our recorded live streams, with this recording being made available tomorrow. This does conclude our broadcast. We certainly appreciate you joining us. And again, we'll stay on the line here for a few more minutes in case anyone has any more questions. If not, feel free to log off. And thanks again and enjoy your day.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. We're excited how this one's doing too, so it's in a very good position.
Oh, we have one question. Can you talk about the appreciation of the building since the purchase?
Well, I think there's two ways to look at things and how they're appreciating right now. The longer we're able to get our lease terms out, what we call our wall weighted average lease term, the longer out that is, the more valuable the asset becomes because it's seen as more stable. Now, there's a trade-off there. If we have like a 30-year lease with no rental escalations, that's not great. So we've really been focusing on getting our leases to have annual escalations. So we're really staying up, and there's a lot less timing involved in that when we get those leases. There's also been an increase in just demand right now for physical space. So just on a price per square foot as things are going up, and a little bit of that is, I certainly believe a lot of that is just driven by the printing of money and the inflation part that's happening right now. It's probably a longer conversation, but our strategy is more around the getting operational stability and improving the lease terms and making it worth more.
Yeah, a lot of office trades pretty rigidly along cap rate. And to really see any kind of significant improvement, basically we need to see those escalations kick in annually. So every year that we see a 1 to 3% increase, which is in general where all these leases are, we'll see a steady appreciation. And on our cover page, on our quarterly report cover page, we do report the net asset value and basically the impact to you. So every quarter, we'll be updating that based on that quarter's NOI. Quarter over quarter, there shouldn't be anything exciting, but year over year, that should steadily creep up as we get the rental increases, assuming
It's
that's
exciting every time it goes up.
yes.
For me, it's exciting. But it's all based on that net operating income.
We have one more question. Any idea when the I-540 interstate, the red dashed line on your map, will be completed, and what is the expected impact of that on this property?
That's a tough one. We looked at this when we were buying the deal. It's been on their docket for about a decade. It is being built. There is construction happening, but just like any highway, it takes a lot of time. We would expect to see a pretty nice uptick with retail development in the general area because it's kind of right off an exit. And so there would be an exit for the road that it's on, and there's already a lot of retail, but there's room for more retail. So we'd expect to see a pretty good uptick in retail development in the area.
But specific timeline.
Yeah, that's tough.
This is one of those major city developments that's on a 10 and 20 year planning schedule, not necessarily like, hey, we need to finish this next month. So realistically, to have the full thing built out with the full interchanges coming off of it and everything, you're looking at a 10 to 20 year time frame.
That's it.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon. And if you can tune in at 2 o'clock for Lake Park, we're excited about that deal. It's here in Atlanta, and it's a new government office building that we're looking at.
Thank you, everyone.